Hi everyone and welcome to your energy update for the week of August 9, 2021. This is a general tarot guidance taking a look at how the energies of this week are likely to influence our lives personally, but also how they might play out on the world stage. Now I must admit that the combination of these cards came as a surprise even for me, because it's so very positive, it's so very uplifting. And under the present circumstances, this is quite unusual, to be totally honest with you. But then again, Uranus is extremely active this week, and it is called the planet of shocks, surprises, the unexpected. And there are times when that surprise is actually quite pleasant. Many times it can enact its symbolism as a very lucky manifestation, where the luck factor is very subjective. We see it as good fortune because it's something pleasant, something truly positive, something useful, helpful, or it creates something new but very promising in its wake. But with Uranus, regardless of how it manifests, in its worst case, like an accident, something not so very pleasant which comes through as a coincidence, or if it's something truly positive and delightful, well, it's always based on some kind of truth that was always there, and it highlights it. It makes it so very obvious that we have no choice but to become aware of it. So this means that despite the chaos that has been going on in the world, despite the doom and gloom, regardless of which side of it we focus on, political, social, and right now quite physical as well, all the fires, all the natural disasters, etc. Well, it still means that in the background somewhere, a lot of us were actually focusing on really positive things, useful things. We were doing the work. And it is only now when whatever we have done, as I said, especially the good things, are gonna be highlighted, and this comes perhaps as a divine reward for each and every time we made the right choice, when we acted with wisdom, and when we chose kindness over severity and perhaps ruthlessness. Now, going back to the reading, today we have the Strength clarified by the Ace of Coins, the Ace of Coins clarified by the Four of Swords, Two of Cups clarified by the Judgment reversed, the Emperor clarified by the Hermit, and as divine guidance we have the Seeker and Ace of Earth. We can already see that the Ace of Coins appears 3 times in one single reading, and that is very significant because it does represent that most probably this week is definitely going to affect us materially, individually and collectively alike, whatever that means. Like materially, it can mean, of course, income, money, the greedier side of this energy. It can also mean the place that our homes, our house, everything that is correlated to our material life. It can also represent our health, our physical bodies, and sometimes it is simply our daily routines. Even if certain elements in our daily routines are not material in nature, well, they do affect our material harmony, if this makes sense. The best example for this, the saying, healthy mind and a healthy body. And all of this is most probably really good news for us as individuals, but chances are this is going to play out on the world stage as well. But I'll begin with the collective reading because, this is where it's a little bit tricky. The Strength clarified by the Ace of Earth, while collectively that might not always be the most positive and serene energy, because what it means is really, really, really powerful, significant, impactful earth changes. The Strength Tarot card is the symbolism of the sign of Leo, a fixed fire sign. And right now we have the sun in there in its home sign. So it's really, really strong and very symbolic. You know, the forest fires, devastating Greece, Turkey, and so very many other places in the world. The powerful heat waves, the unusual weather phenomenon, winds, storms, hail, lightning storms, everything that has to do with weather, climate, and of course the earth as well. Well, this kind of suggests that those phenomenon are gonna get perhaps either a little bit stronger, but they can also symbolize that it's not going anywhere, it's gonna stay with us. The heat wave and the unusual climate activities, but you know, it can also symbolize that there might be an earthquake or a volcanic eruption bound to happen somewhere on the planet this week. And yet another possible interpretation, well, this is literal strength and the earth, so landslide, the strength of the earth, movement of the earth. Now, next we have the Ace of Coins clarified by the Four of Swords. And even though, you know, economically speaking especially, this does represent material stagnation, but you know, if we adapt it in what's happening in the world in the present moment, that is actually quite a really good sign, because it says that the economy is not going to collapse. This means that all the efforts taken by, you know, authorities and companies, people, etc., to prevent loss, to prevent disaster, again from an economic perspective, well, those efforts are working, they are going to produce effects, and that effect is stability or being able to prevent like a massive fluctuation, especially in those parts of the world where the economic side of this crisis is really out of hand. For example, like severe poverty, where perhaps even food, even the most basic human needs are already really, really scarce. Well, this can possibly represent a sigh of relief, because either help is coming in or a promised help, a promised support is gonna be offered. The promise is gonna be fulfilled, so to speak. So for a lot of people, this can mean in a symbolic way that they can rest their minds, they can rest their worries. The drama that they're ultimately experiencing and living, maybe it doesn't stop here, but it becomes much, much more bearable, tolerable, and ultimately, this Four of Swords means regeneration, because you know, the figure depicted on the card is resting, it is regenerating, it is not in a situation of crisis. So this is a really, really good sign. And also, if certain people made like investments in the recent past and those were kind of in danger or the signs didn't look too good, this can represent that it's not gonna turn into an imminent loss. Even if it doesn't turn into something infinitely prosperous, well, at least the investment is not lost, it is preserved for the future, and that is really, really good. And even from a very, very symbolic perspective, just take a look at the image of that Ace of Coins. It depicts the mythological moment when Hercules took the weight of the world off of Atlas' shoulders, giving him a moment of respite, and combined with the Four of Swords, this is like a comic book depiction of this event. So symbolically speaking, something happens, something positive, where, you know, the weight of the world is gonna be taken off our shoulders, both individually and collectively. Even if it's not forever, well, it still helps immensely. Now moving on, we have this Two of Cups and the Judgment reverse card. Now this is also very suggestive because this kind of means that perhaps two nations, two countries who maybe once were at war or conflict with each other, so there was a massive difference between them, are now going to join forces to collaborate for a very good purpose. And this is where the Judgment reverse can represent that they'll put their differences aside regardless of what that difference means. The past, how they feel towards each other, economic differences, strategical, military, etc. So they unite forces for a common good. But at the same time, the Judgment reverse also represents that this gesture is going to be taken totally in the wrong way by certain people out there, so it's going to be criticized. Especially if this alliance, if this union, so to speak, is legal or like an international pact, a new diplomatic alliance being born. So people, at least at first glance, are not going to be very understanding or very tolerant of this, but ultimately this does suggest that whatever happens is actually for the greater good. And with the Emperor and the Hermit, it's very straightforward. Work is being done. So from a collective perspective, that means rebuilding, reconstruction, finding solutions. The Hermit is the symbolism of Virgo. Virgo is service and self-sacrifice. So, it can represent humanitarian efforts. It can represent diplomatic efforts. It can represent, for example, the Emperor, a world leader, the leader of a country, leader of a nation, president, king, etc. Making certain compromises, listening to the people. Of course, maybe not because that person really wants to. Maybe they are forced, or maybe they have no other choice. But at least something positive happens. Like it or not, they will have to give in. They will have to execute what the people ask of them. So it's really positive. Now, from an individual perspective, this can actually be even a more positive energy. For example, the Strength and Ace of Earth. Well, this is almost self-explanatory. You will be in your position of power, including the material aspects of your life. And, the Ace of Coins can simply symbolize the structure in your life. And even if that is just an inner structure, how you feel about the material aspect of your life, how stable it is, how safe you feel, how wealthy you feel. Of course, this is highly subjective. But with the Strength, you can cope, you can manage, you have power, you can do certain things that either are necessary or you need to do them out of your own will. For those, for example, who are seeking a job, a new source of income, those who have worked on their projects, those who have invested some kind of effort or money or, any kind of resources into something, this might be a period when they can achieve a breakthrough, the Strength card. This might not mean that they will be showered with riches, etc. This just means that they can find their stability. It might be a moment when their work actually turns into resources that can offer them stability, especially for the future, the close future. And from a much more symbolical perspective, this can simply mean that one way or another, us individually are starting to reconstruct our sense of normality, what our new normality is. It's not a thing of the future anymore, it's actually a thing of the present. This is where, one way or another, all of us had a tower moment when this COVID struck. So something fell apart in our lives, and now We are actually rebuilding, we're actually reconstructing. Even if we're just still at the foundation, the basis, well, work that actually shows results is always a really, really positive sign, regardless if that is physical or if it's just psychological, for example, self-esteem, rediscovering, reinventing yourself, etc. And from another perspective, the strength and the ace of coins always means regeneration. If certain people had like physical problems, ill health, imbalances, they struggled health-wise with many things that could possibly affect their lives, this is where they might regenerate, they might receive help, even if that is from like a doctor, a holistic healer, a hospital, surgery, etc. It will still produce really positive effects, as in healing, regeneration, and feeling better, feeling stronger, feeling more resilient, feeling more whole physically. And those of you who might not have had like a very specific medical problem, you might have just felt like an overwhelming sensation of fatigue, loss of physical strength, vitality, force. This might represent that it's coming back, it's regenerating. You are going to be feeling much better physically, and that means being able to do certain activities which either were needed and you couldn't do them, or you wanted to but couldn't. Even if that simply means just going out, exercising, going to a gym, practicing yoga, etc. Anything that has a physical element to it. Now this Ace of Coins with the Four of Swords, well, this does mean, just as I said in the collective part, that it's a kind of material stagnation, but this is where it's the most positive kind. For example, your business is back on tracks. Yes, maybe it's not going to lead you to extra money, but the income that you need is gonna be there, so you will rest. You might not even want to take on any extra work or anything like that. You will be more than happy with just being safe and that sense of security that there is gonna be another day tomorrow, free of struggle, free of fear, free of worry, and of course free of excessive planning and having to manage this and that. For other people, this can even mean vacation, free time, no longer having to multitask. For others still, it can mean help, support, where someone helps you, most probably someone close to you, who just takes the burden off your shoulder, gives you a little bit of free time, time for yourself. Like for example, maybe parents saved a little bit of money and they're going to gift it to you. Or if you are a parent and your child was kind of struggling and not very safe materially speaking, maybe you will receive some good news, Swords energy, which will give you a peace of mind. You will finally feel that relief that your child is gonna be okay now. Or another version, if your business, job, etc. was in danger, you were struggling, income fluctuated a lot, maybe 1 month you earned quite a good amount of money and resources and the next month was almost totally empty. This can also mean a kind of stability where, things get back on track. And of course, this combination of cards can also suggest regeneration, physical regeneration. But this is where the regeneration is going to be triggered by rest or perhaps a trip into nature, a vacation, a peace of mind, cutting out sources of stress, worry, and irritation from your life. Or for those people who are struggling always, with stress-related problems, when you're triggered, when you're under stress, your physical body, immediately display certain symptoms, like, let me just give you an example: psoriasis, digestive problems, or hair falling out, something like that. You might have a period of rest and regeneration where these symptoms no longer interfere with your well-being. So basically, the big picture is that you will be able to bear the weight of your material life, everything that is included in there: health, resources, daily routines, etc. Now, for the Two of Cups clarified by the Judgment reversed, this is where things take a different turn for different people, because this can be the most positive news. This can mean like a fated relationship entering your life. It can also represent a truly profound emotional healing, but for other people it can actually represent them missing out the opportunity of a lifetime because of their judgment, or because of a very twisted and corrupted mindset that they are embodying in the present moment. So for some people, this can represent like a romantic meeting with someone quite unusual. The Judgment reversed means that this person, regardless if it's like purely romantic as in partnership in that sense, in some cases it can also represent a very, very light-hearted and emotionally uplifting new friendship or alliance. So this person might be someone very unusual. They might be someone who you might not even expect to click with, to feel harmonious feelings towards, to stir up your interest. So this may come as a total shock and surprise, but ultimately it leads to somewhere really, really positive. Especially if you're single and not looking, it might be the biggest surprise in your life. For other people, it's not exactly someone new, but rather someone from the past. Or it can even be someone from the past who you never ever suspected to have romantic feelings. Or if it's not romantic, maybe if it's just a very strong friendship, you might not have even suspected that that person feels so strongly about you and your friendship and everything that has to do with your relationship. So something might surge up from the past which will give you a very pleasant surprise. And let's say even if this relationship is not gonna be resumed, so to speak, it will still give you a really, really pleasant surprise that you were loved and you might not have even known it. For others still, it can be an apology, it can be a moment of maximum honesty and truth from an ex. And this apology or communication or whatever this is, perhaps it's actually a fated meeting, a coincidence. You bump into them one way or another and they just tell you that they changed, they tell you that they rethought everything, they contemplated, and they are sorry, or that you were always right. You know, something which really heals a wound inside of you. Or it can also be if you are the one who feel guilty that perhaps you should have done things differently in the past. Maybe you hurt someone who you dearly loved, but you couldn't express your love in a very clear way. Maybe you meet them, a coincidental, a synchronistic moment occurs, and you are able to express your true feelings, and that gives both of you a massive sense of clarity. And of course, healing, forgiveness, anything that has to do with emotional regeneration. And sometimes the justice reversed can be so very powerful that it can even heal a trauma. It can even alchemize a really unpleasant memory into something very positive, into something uplifting. It is a healing energy of release truly letting go of the past. And as I said, even if this doesn't lead anywhere, a resume of relationship or rebuilding the bridges, it is still healing, it is still soothing, it will still feel like a true blessing. Yet another possible interpretation, version of this energy, might not have to do with romance in a classical sense. Maybe you have certain friends in your life, really, really good friends. This is where it's friendship for life, etc., that kind of situation, who might surprise you, who might prepare something for you, who might be conspiring behind your back to honor you, to give you a moment of joy, a moment of happiness. If you have been struggling with anything in your life, maybe this gesture comes to give you a relief or to make you feel better. So this can also represent like a really pleasant and truly unexpected surprise, because the judgment reverse, the judgment is Pluto. So you are totally unaware of this. And it could be that those two friends, maybe they are not connected to each other, they're just connected to you, and they contacted each other behind your back and conspired to collaborate, to give you a surprise, to make you smile, to make you feel beautiful or whatever. And this is the best kind of secret, this is the best kind of, and your friends are working behind your back towards your greatest good. And for example, if it's a moment like this, it won't just solidify your friendship even more, but perhaps those two friends who were only connected to you but not really to each other might find a connection to each other as well, and that will form like a beautiful friendship triangle. They might just, say to each other that, well, we're gonna be part of each other's lives indirectly anyway, so, why not? But of course, there is a darker side of this energy, where this romantic surprise might be actually a divine punishment, if this makes sense. And the only possible way I can interpret this, maybe the universe planned a romantic surprise for you, or a beautiful new friendship, or even an old friend returning into your life. But because, the judgment reversed can represent your own judgment, a twisted, misaligned worldview, or something that you are very intolerant about. And because, you are not able to see beyond your judgment, you might just miss out on this opportunity, and it's your loss, really. Like, let me just give you an example. You meet a person or someone from your past resurfaces with truly good intention. Perhaps the reason why your connection was severed was not because of any conflict or anything like that. Maybe you moved away, or, life just separated you. And this person returns, or a new person comes into your life. It doesn't really matter. And Pluto, the judgment reverse, the shadow, can mean like a fear or manipulation. Let's say the vaccination stuff, a very divergent political view, for example, a different belief system, a different religion, etc. And you are unable to look beyond that and see how truly well intended this person is, and all the value that it can add to your life. And even more, maybe you will be totally blind to the fact that you are so compatible in any other areas of life. And because of this judgment, you cannot accept vaccinated or unvaccinated people, or people of different conviction, religion, different political view, or, simply said judgment, a bad judgment. And you miss out on this opportunity, but because the judgment is reversed, the universe will either very, very soon or immediately reveal to you the mistake that you have made, that you failed this karmic test. And, This will invite you to change, but the opportunity that was offered to you is lost forever, so all you can do is wait for another one. And now moving on to the Emperor and the Hermit. From a strictly individual perspective, this is such a good energy because it means that you are building something, you are solving problems, you are living your truth, you are the king and queen of your life, the king of your own castle, which means that you're making decisions, you're making choices, you embody this sovereignty. But the Hermit adds to that not in a selfish way, not in an egocentric way, quite the opposite, in a truly balanced, diligent, dignified, even altruistic way. So you are doing something important in your life, with yourself, with your whatever career or relationships or hobbies, projects, creativity. It just simply means a period of action where the action, choices, decisions that you make are going to lead to something prosperous. Maybe not necessarily in a pure material sense, maybe in an emotional sense, psychological sense, social sense, why not? So it's something which offers you almost like instant gratification. May this be service to the self, the Emperor, or may it be service towards other people, but with true and palpable rewards to it. And the Hermit also adds another nuance of this energy. You're not really influenced by anyone or anything, you're doing your own thing. It is part of your life story or life path, mission. It means that you're busy in the most favorable sense possible, and busy exactly in what you need it and desire it the most in your life. So it might not mean work in a classical sense whatsoever. For example, if you're on vacation, it can mean that you're working towards your own inner harmony, healing, detox, regeneration. Or if you're not on vacation, you started something creative, well, it means a lot of progress, a lot of learning, a lot of moments of triumph, mastery. If you're a student, it's even better, because this Emperor can mean that a teacher, a mentor, is gonna be not just proud of you, but they might include you in something which they would not include another student, for example. Or in other cases, maybe you helped another person, you guided another person, you taught another person, even, regardless if it's professionally or like a friend or whatever, and that person is gonna make progress, and of course, you will feel so very accomplished. And for others still, this can mean a promotion, this can mean like a manager, a boss, whatever, a person occupying a more superior position than you in the present on the hierarchical ladder, regardless in which sense, and they just either surrender this position to you, honoring you, or maybe it is time for them to go, or maybe a new position is offered to them. They will offer their position to you. Or for those people especially who are looking for a job, this might mean that you might be invited to a job interview. You might actually get a position which is much better than you thought originally. Someone might say, well, you know what? I wanted to recruit a person for this position, but I can see that you're so experienced or skilled or, hermit, willing to do something according to the highest standards, so why not take a better position? Would you be interested in this and that? So that is so very harmonious. That is also a pleasant surprise. It can mean when someone just honors you. And as a spiritual guidance, we have the Seeker, which is the Fool, and the Ace of Coins again. Well, this is where the universe just suggests for us to have courage, for us not to fear everything that we do not know, everything that we do not have experience with, Because one way or another, a new beginning, a new path, a new spiritual apprenticeship, or a new phase of our lives begins here. And this new beginning is going to be the most significant and the most impacting for our childlike energies, for the inner child, because it also holds a sense of adventure. It also promises fertility, security, something to make you feel safe, something to make you feel accomplished, something which has hope, and basically a new dream attached to it. So it tells you to just be ready, the seeker, when we start out on a journey into the great unknown, to be ready, not to fear it, to trust our hearts, because such a moment, either literally or just spiritually, psychologically or emotionally, is very, very close. And especially for those people who very recently, we had so many big astrological events this summer, eclipses especially, and eclipses always represent like a massive ending, lunar eclipse, and a big moment of crisis which births something new. If you have been, symbolically to be understood, a victim of the stars in this sense, then this new beginning is especially meant and suggested for you, especially if you need a sense of closure and also a sense of new beginning. So thank you so much for listening. This concludes today's reading. Wish everyone a blessed and truly magical week. Until next time, bye for now.